Hey folks, Phil Davis, Ancestry Lands, ancestrylands.com. I'm going to talk a little bit today, and this is for a lot of younger people, single men, single women, people who are married. This is for everybody. And the concept is knowing why you want the things you want. Okay? Let me say that again. This is the concept of knowing why you want the things that you want. Okay, so I'm going to try to break this down a little bit and more of a concept. When you're younger and you're 18 and 19 and 20, especially for myself during that time, typically the things that I wanted in my life, if I look back on it now, I would say it was solely in pursuit of appealing to others' opinion, likes, and favoritism or attention. So let me say that again. When I was younger, in my early 20s, even late teens, I'm going to say probably even your young teens, you as a teenager, and when I say teens, it's still 18, 19, even into 20, 21, because I think pretty much when you're 21, what you are as a teenager that just got allowed to drink. So you really haven't become an adult yet. I would equate it to 21 being able to drink as your last stage of being a teenager, because anyone who's 25, 26, 27, a drink is not exactly the same buzz that it was when you were 21. You drink either socially, but it's not an excitement over drinking itself. It's more about the environment and people that you're with, the social aspect. So 21 is like you can go to the liquor store and no one can say anything to you, which is pretty much you're still in the mindset of a teenager at that point. So at that point, in your early teens, mid-teens, and late teens, even up to 21, I'm going to give it that range, high-end range. For me, my appeal of the things that I wanted, a car, it had to be a certain type of car. When I was a younger teenager, the shoes had to be the shoes in style. You couldn't have British Knights, and I'm going way back if anybody knows what British Knights are, which were once fashionable, but then Nikes became fashionable. And it was doing the things that I wanted were to fit in. The things I wanted were to attract. Attract not because of my value, but be attract because the thing I had was something that would grab attention, would make a person look to me and say, well, I have a check off to what's cool. And what I was not ultimately was a person who identified, and I'm only going to speak for my own community, I'm not going to talk for other communities, as an African American. I didn't appeal to what was popular in the black community at that time, and that typically was, growing up in the late 90s, someone who sagged their pants, who I forget what the populace, they had parts in their head. You had gold chains, which is still a thing now, but regular gold chains. You were a rapper. And I'm talking about local rapper. I'm not talking about you got a signed contract, but this is someone who had that heightened popularity. But anything that presented as being the Pookie and Ray Ray or thuggish mentality, what now we know is hip hop and the gangster rap and all of that bad boy attitude was what was most appealing. So when I look to date and attract women, I often fell short because, for one, I went to a Catholic school. I was highly educated. My conversation was not built around the things that, people in those demographics, talked about. And the other one was the rims. That's the time where like 18-inch rims were like the biggest thing on the block now. Having a loud sound system. I wasn't raised in a household. My father didn't raise me to idolize those things. He always tried to get me on the importance of education. I was going to football, doing football, looking towards college as the institution of higher learning was the desired point. So, but I still desired the things that, I wanted a car with rims. My dad got me a hoopty. He wasn't going for a brand new car with 18-inch, alloy. It wasn't alloy. It was, the platinum rims and all of that stuff, or the car with the rims, and it was before the spinners, but the loud boom system with the bass and all of that stuff, because that's what the guys who were getting the most popular girls, the girls I wanted, that's what they were attracted to. So how can you compete when your dad is a person that makes you read, that you would read Greek mythology, and that's not something you could discuss over taking a girl out, going to college, having a future, those kind of things. That's not stuff that people were interested in. And there may be a lot of people here who can resonate with that. And there might be younger people who are going through that you're not, what's today? You don't have a TikTok channel. People are following other people on social media. You might look at it as there's a whole lot of difference from what I'm talking about to today. It is in the sense of the apple to apple comparison. It's social media today. It's still who's cool, how many TikTok followers, things like that. But still, the appeal, what is attractive to the people you're attracted to, has not changed, as far as in the sense that it's not your intrinsic value. It's the things that you want right now as a teenager may be things that other people are attracted to, but it is not your actual value. Okay, so the same thing with me growing up. It was I wasn't aware within myself that my own value, my own destiny, my own future was the thing that I should hold on to, instead of trying to identify or appeal to others to get to like me, because I had the things that other people who were popular at the time wanted or had. I needed to look for someone who was very attracted to my intrinsic value, and the things that I wanted in life. So again, in your teenage years, most of the time what you're into is trying to go along to get along, to go along with the crowd, or go along with what's popular. And as you progress later on in life at that stage, you'll kind of see that you wasted a lot of time trying to follow trends. And I think that's probably even more now than ever. Follow these trends that have nothing to do with your basic value. I say this because there's probably a lot of younger men and women, young teens, that, there's always that story of the guy who feels like he would treat a girl like $1 million, and she's with the guy who maybe doesn't like her as much, and the girl is fighting for attention because she is competing for this guy's attention and amongst other girls. And the same thing can be said about that girl who's with the bad guy, who's with the guy that's cool, but he's not giving her the things that she really wants and desires. He's not there for your value. He's there for something else. It might be your looks. It might be the way you praise him. And again, do you know why you want the things that you want? And a lot of times in life, we're not willing to get the things that we want out of a person that really is trying to give us what we want in life, whether it's that love and affection, whether it's companionship, whether it's, friendship, or someone to love us. We're looking for it in a different place that it's not there for us. We want to make it there for us, but it's not there. So you go through your teens, as far as I'm going to speak from the man's side or young man's side, you go through your teens trying to buy the things to get the girl. And you always end up losing to the guy who never had to buy a thing. He's just a bad boy. He's got the appeal. For me, it was the guy who had the sagging pants, new shoes. He had the cool clothes, the Tommy Hilfiger. He had the Tim boots, with the laces out and the tongue out, if anybody knows what that means. Or then it was the Tim boots with, you didn't have the heel of the Tim boot had to be fresh. And then you had to have Tim boots that match every one of your outfits, so your Tim boots couldn't be the regular construction brown, the dude with the black Tim boots, or the Fat Farm, or the FUBU. You had to have the latest style and the latest look of whatever was popular at the time. And one thing I'm going to say is about as you look further in life, I look now at 40, or 41, I look back and see, where are those people now? What have they done for themselves? Case in point, one of the cool guys, man, I remember in middle school, this guy, I think his name was Ocho. This is going way back. In middle school, he was one of the cool guys, man. And I was just I wasn't a nerdy kid, but I was just a kid, regular kid, man. I dressed regular. I wasn't anything standing out for. I was short. I didn't have, muscles and things like that. And, a lot of girls thought this guy was just cool. We were in Spanish class. Dude didn't bring any books, didn't pay attention. It was cool to be dumb. And not saying he was dumb, but it was cool to not apply yourself. And the girls loved it. They loved a guy who didn't apply himself in life. And that's saying something, right? So you're competing with people who don't want to apply themselves in life, and you're competing for the attention of women who want men who don't apply themselves in life. And I'm speaking on my generation and my era. And it messed me up a lot, to the point where, I started to adopt more behaviors that would appeal to women's attention. And this caused me to start failing in school. I stopped bringing books to school. I would bring them to school, but I wouldn't take them to class. Not paying attention in class and having smart answers for the teacher, being a class clown, was more incentivizing to me, because I was trying to get the, acceptance of the peers, the cool kids, and the girls at that age. Younger people, you might also see this similarities nowadays, where you're now competing for a girl's attention based upon the same criteria, but just in a different method. And the thing I will say is that at some point it switched gears, and part of that switching gears is once my father found out, and there was some disciplining going on to get me realigned to understand that this behavior was not acceptable. One of the main importance of having a black father, or a father period, in the house. I'm tired of it always being a black father. I know in the black community those numbers are staggering, but not having a father in the home for any race is detrimental, because my father was the one to come in and fix this stuff. He didn't tolerate it. He corrected it with extreme prejudice. And I got back in line. And one of the things my father did, instead of just punishing me, which he did, afterwards, he went to evaluate the environment that he had me in. I was in a public school system, and the school system was, if you look on greatschools.org, anyone who's a parent, the area where you live in, if you go on a Zillow or even greatschools.org or niche, NICHE.com, you can look up districts and areas, and it will give you a breakdown of, the demographics, people who rent versus people who owns, how the school districts are, crime, burglaries, assaults, everything like that. It'll give you a breakdown to see, how your environment is impacting your children. And at that time, I had failed English. Hell, I failed gym. I failed gym because, can you hear me for a second? I failed gym. At that time, it was at 7th or 8th grade. And my dad was like, how are you failing gym, boy? Gym. He was like, with English, he was like, boy, you speak the daggone language. How you failing gym? All right. And this was true as day. And it wasn't because I didn't know, or I had no desire to learn. It was because the environment I was in was one that perpetuated or promoted non-learning, non-application of oneself in life. It was a race to the bottom. And I'm not saying that, this is the black community itself, but what I'm telling you a story of is now trying to get you to understand. If anyone's trying to say, well, where's he going with this? I'm trying to show you that I now at Ancestry Lands, who I am now, I was no exception to the rule. I could have been exactly the general rule. If you're in an environment where there is no promotion of application of oneself in life, in society, in education, in your job, in your business, in your workplace, it doesn't matter. If there is a place that doesn't promote that, or there's not an environment where you're with peers that promote that application of oneself, then you're going to be birds of a feather flock together, right? That's why they had that saying. It just means that you're at a race to the bottom of whatever that culture is. So my father sent me to a Catholic school where parents had to pay. It was further away. He removed me from that environment because the learning environment was not one that promoted learning. I say this again, it was that the removal of me from that environment. Now, I still brought some of those habits there, but what ended up happening where in the public school in the area where I lived at that time, the learning environment was one that you didn't apply yourself. That's why I failed gym, because ain't nobody go to gym and they just sat around, hang out, talk to the girls. Teacher tell you to do something, you don't do anything. You're supposed to dress in gym clothes, you don't. It's not cool, because identifying with that was the way to go. It got you didn't get laughed at, you didn't get picked on. So when my dad put me in a Catholic school, it wasn't because I lived in a black neighborhood. I had, Puerto Rican friends. I had, mixed friends that were Japanese and black. They were biracial. It wasn't a problem with the community. It was a problem of the community, the way the standards were being held within that community, the environment. It wasn't a black culture himself. I had great neighbors. There wasn't a crime-ridden area, but it was a changing of the culture, which is now prevalent today, to one that is not promoting of applying oneself for the betterment. And now we have, 40-year-olds that are kind of in a lost effect because we haven't been applying ourselves towards being better. I think the community as a whole is suffering from that because my generation are ones that have children now. And it was the degrading of the community that was going on. You had a long time ago, and I don't want to lose people here, but the long time ago, the first thing they do was, before they brought drugs into the community, they took the fathers out of the homes and incentivized fathers not being in the homes, and the women were able to become financially, stabilized through the government. And it was a way to break up the nuclear family. At one point, back in the 60s, the black households, mother and father, it was even probably higher than white households at that time. Well, what happened? You take the father out the home, you incentivize women to have a government subsidies with the father not being there. Now, was it all black women's fault? No, black men were implicit in that aspect of gaining a check by not being in the home. They took part in it. Do your history, look it up. So what happens then you have drugs come into the community. You have the crack epidemic, the heroin, cocaine epidemic, and now you destroy it economically. You degrade the black communities. These neighborhoods start to get broken down. The real estate, which is something I'm prevalent in, if you want to go in and buy up an area, what you do is first devalue the property all around. How do you do that? You bring drugs, crime, and you break up homes. You create economic instability. The same thing happening with this country right now. And then when the prices are low, you go in and buy and gentrify the neighborhood. But how does this happen? Does it happen? Can drugs be brought in? No, it has to start. The first thing they did was break up the nuclear family. So now with my father, fast forwarding back now, my father removed me from the environment that was detrimental to me applying myself. When I got to the Catholic school, yes, there were blacks there were Puerto Ricans there. We weren't the majority, we were a minority. But one thing was uniform throughout the school. The children were there to learn and apply themselves. The ones that weren't were outliers, the smaller percentage. Parents were paying and they were invested, again, applying themselves in their children's education and success. Do you need a Catholic school to do this? Absolutely not. But the parent applying themselves is the same as the children applying themselves in the environment that they're in. The parent is amongst other parents that are applying themselves and has a vested interest in making sure that their children have a qualified outcome. Why did my dad put me there? Because he understood why he wanted the thing that he wanted. He understood that the environment was the issue with his son failing. Not that his son had an intrinsic problem. I was identifying with the environment that was synonymous with failure. And my dad changed why I was there. So he understood that why I wanted to get that F in class was to promote my failure to other people who were failures. So again, younger people now, what are you identifying with? Why do you want the things that you want? All right, that's a father's take on that. And we're talking 90s now, right? Now I'm a father. Now I'm looking at the same behaviors brought down generationally to where I have to make a decision for my children in the environment they're in. I've got to make a decision on why do I want the things that I want? Why did I move from Northern California over here to Pennsylvania? Why did I choose this location? The same reason I put my kids in one of the better school districts so they compete. Did I put them in there because they're going to be around all whites? I mean, this whole notion that you got to be around whites. No, I put my kids in here so they can surpass the people that are here. My daughter skipped 3rd grade. My son is a candidate to skip 1st. I put my children here to surpass so that way they can supersede their own generational peers. There's nothing to do with identifying with culture. I put them here to surpass the cultures that are around them. They're competitors. One of the problems we have today is that people have a defeatist attitude. They do not want to compete. And we have a global economy, which means you're not even competing with the whites that are here. You're not competing with the blacks that are here. You're competing with Asians in other countries, Indians in other countries, Germans in other countries, Italians in other countries. Because corporations are hiring globally. They have satellite offices. There's no more that you're just in this local area. You want to work for a local place. You know, I had a small business. I got virtual assistants, people who work for me in Northern and Southern California, and I've got them here and already down in Georgia. So even small businesses are not limited to state borders. So again, you want a job from me, you're competing with somebody in Northern and Southern California and in Georgia and in Pennsylvania itself. We've done events in New Jersey. So again, even for a small business such as myself, you're not competing with just people in your local county, your local neighborhood. I'll tell you something my father used to tell me when I was a child, man. I was a teenager. He'd say, son, Philip, the world's much bigger than your neighborhood. And this is in the 90s before we had a global economy. He used to tell me that back when I was a teenager, like 14 years old. I'm saying to you all now we're in the world is much bigger than your state, your country, your town, your street, your house, your peers. You want jobs, you got to compete with people. They'll hire people from outside the country before they do in the country. All my employees or consultants that work for me are U.S. hires. Most of the people in the land business, they'll hire people in the Philippines, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they'll hire them for pennies on a dollar. You know why? Because labor's cheap. I believe in hiring in the U.S. to help out my countrymen first. Now that's saying something in the business. We're predominantly, most of my hires, they're mostly women, and then I have my posting manager, my marketing executive, Eric. We go way back, and he's qualified to be in that position. We've hired, we're predominantly minority run business. The black owned, me myself is the owner, but all of us, even the people that are I would say not, they're Spanish. They're from Spain. They come from Marie is Basque, and it's not to do anything to do. It's just show that. Again, different cultures bring different values and add-ons to a business, to a society, and I'm not afraid to have that competition. So again, when you're 18, you're young, 20s, why do you want the things that you want? You got to ask yourself that and understand, is it because of someone else? Is it to appeal? Is it to gain attention? Or is it something that you're building your own value within yourself? Does a person want you for who you are? Your quirks, your little idiosyncrasies, things that you like to do. I'm like a stiffler for cleaning and watching over stuff. One of the things that my wife and I, she gets is like, I'm a nurse, so I'm always OCD about stuff. I'm heavy on the cleaning, making sure that we have safety. When you do something, you check your lines before you do it. But she's come to understand there's a great value in me being that way. Because when my children have an illness, she looks to me to decide whether they should go to the hospital or not, knowing that their health care is top notch, even brushing their teeth, using mouthwash. She understands that the children's health is something that is a paramount priority, even her health. is something that is a priority to me. And those little things that might be annoyances as you grow, we've been together for 10 years. And we've learned to love those things that annoy us about each other, because they're valuable in a situation when you require them and need them. They're annoying because they bother you along the way. It's this, that. It can sound petty or even that, but you come to appreciate those things when life happens. So I'm going to move to the next phase. All right. So you teenagers, you guys that are young 20-year-olds, you can understand is that, when do you go to college? All right. Moving on. You want a degree for what purpose? Go to college, spend all these thousands of dollars that you get a debt for, right? Your parents front end the load, the scholarship paying for you to go to school, but then you're left with the biggest debt and interest right after that, right? So what are you going for? You go into school first 2 years, you play around. You don't even start thinking about what you want in life until you're in your second or third year, sometimes even fourth years. We're walking through life for 2 to 3 years, not knowing what we want, but we're in college. What are we doing? My father told me before I even went to college, he said, son, go pick 3 degrees. Go take this book, go look at it, pick 3 fields of study. So he was like, you ain't going unless you have this down. One criteria is you are in a high paying field, which if you look at the studies now, most college students think that they're going to get out of college and make $100,000, never even looking or doing any research. And again, if you're a parent like myself, you probably have a teenage child. You have children old enough to be going to college. If you are a little bit older than me, the first thing you should do is tell your child when they're 18 and they're thinking about going to school is to have them find out what degree, what they want to do in life, because they're going to need to get paid for it. And it ain't just going out and get these happy-feel-lucky degrees that sound good on paper, but actually pay less than it would if you worked at McDonald's. My wife, who went to college while we were married to get her bachelor's, I told her 2 things. I said, don't get a piece of paper to hang on the wall, because she's the first one in her family that's gotten a college degree out of her siblings and her parents. She's one of the first ones to even graduate high school out of her nuclear family and even get a college degree. And I told her, don't go get a degree on the wall to say you succeeded past those who are in your family. The college degree that's a dime a dozen. It's not nothing special now. Everybody got college degrees. What you got to do is pick something that you can move cross country with, because she's lived in California. We moved to Pennsylvania and she still works. She actually makes more money here than she would if she was in California. You need mobility in addition to high pay. Most of the kids think that automatically that degree, that piece of paper, is going to equate to a number, and it doesn't equate to that. The fields don't pay, and even if you do pay at the top number, my brother, who's a teacher in New York, one of the boroughs in New York, he tops out at $100K as a teacher in New York City. He didn't start there. So again, you got to understand, what is the pay in the field that you have? Why do you want to have that degree? I want a degree in business. What business? There's a whole bunch of businesses. And then you got to compete globally for that position to be able to get to the upper level where you could have a cost of living or a salary that's able to survive and pass through this cost of living. This is the reason why people tend to move back in with their parents. And it's a failure on the parents to not prepare their kids for this. You want to prepare them when they get to college. No. You need to talk to them before they even get out the door. When they get the acceptance to the school they want to go to, you got to make sure they understand what they're walking into. College is only for 4 years, and it runs very quickly. So they get there the first year, they're trying to figure out, you got to help guide them and get them to understand what's most important is that salary. What are you going to be making when you get out of school? You got to look for stuff that has this. Well, the second part is, what happens if you have to move? Is that job mobile in the sense that you can do it anywhere? For being a nurse, I can be a nurse in California. I could be a nurse here. I could be a nurse in both states. I could be a nurse in any state so long as I'm licensed there. So again, check mark. You could be a travel nurse. You need a job or a career that has different modalities, such as I can be a school nurse. I've done flu shots. I've done home care. They're a special family that I was able to take care of their child. She had spinal surgery. They didn't even get home until she was about 8 months old, because I was a nurse that was willing to take their assignment to be a home care nurse. I had to go there every day, 10 hours a day, to take care of their 8-month-old baby who was on a ventilator and had, scoliosis to 80 degrees. I got paid weekly at that job, and I filled a need, and I was able to make a great support my lifestyle because of having a degree, a nursing degree. I got one degree that allowed me to switch from hospital to home, to nursing homes, to school, being a school nurse, to doing flu shots during flu season, to working in IT on the same degree. That was another important thing my dad made me very aware of when I decided on a college that I went to. And I picked law enforcement. I wanted to be an FBI agent. I wanted to do nursing and pre-med. And I decided pre-med was way too long of schooling, and I didn't want to come out with much debt. Law enforcement I was really heavy into. And then between the two, I decided on doing nursing when I got to my school. So when I walked in the door, I had an idea of what I wanted. And my goals, my mission in college was to do everything in college towards that, with that end in mind, with the nursing degree in mind. Even it became hard because when I was playing football, the schedule with football was, colliding with the nursing schedule. I had a track scholarship at the time, and I had to actually switch to doing track because my track coach was more flexible. Shout out to Coach Lance, my track coach. He was always able to do 6 a.m. workouts to get my workout done. He was like, listen, man, I don't care. You got to run 6 300s today, and I want you at this certain time. We could do it at 6 a.m. We could do it at 11 p.m. It's up to you as long as you get the workout in. So I was able to be flexible in that. And I had to give up football. I played football freshman and sophomore year. And I was ranked, 5th in the nation in kick returns during that year. And what was that? 2000. That football season at Wagner College. That was the same year that Brian Westbrook was playing at Villanova. And I still was able to run track and fulfill my scholarship requirements and switch to nursing. It was a big thing. My parents weren't too happy, but they, were happy because I'm going forward in a career. But I had this, being ranked 5th in the nation and saying I'm going to stop doing it after that. That kind of like, whew, you go on YouTube and look at Wagner College 2000 highlights, and you'll see a video of me on YouTube running kick returns back, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And that's not to promote myself, but that's to show you that I was really doing it. And I gave that up because I knew why I wanted what I wanted. I had to give up football, being ranked 5th in the nation in kick returns. Going to try out for the combines, having that perspective that even, I'm not saying I was going to go to NFL, but just being able to say, you're ranked nationally in football and kick returns. Anybody who's an athlete can understand how important that is. Being able to say, hey man, you go try out, if you keep this up, having that future that's there, that's saying, man, you can even get on a practice squad, making $100K. But what ended up happening was I kept having concussions, and I went to a neurologist, and he said, hey, if you keep this up, you're going to have, brain damage at that point. And it was just because I was, very aggressive as a football player, and I played defense. And, to me, I had to understand why I wanted what I wanted. Football wasn't the thing for me anymore. I wanted to be a nurse because I knew this is what I wanted in life. And again, this is the same time with the movie with Ben Stiller where he's the nurse. I'm going to meet the Effers. This came out and everybody on the football team knew I was going to nurse. And then I got, hey, Effer, if you know the movie I think it's called Meet the Parents. That movie there came out when I was in football and I was studying to be a nurse. So everybody was getting on me about that because, male nurse, it wasn't as cool as it is now or well known. It was kind of still like, he's a male nurse, weird. Being a black man as a male nurse too was kind of like even a double bubble, So again, moving along, I knew what I wanted though. I knew why I wanted it. And I mean, if you look at me now, being where I'm at in life, being a nurse that works 4 days a month, some nurses say I'm semi-retired, but being a great nurse that has a business too as well, serving the communities in pandemic, I knew why I wanted it back then, because look at where I'm at now in college. I didn't waste any time, not any time. So when I got a degree that allowed me to work in Arizona, I worked at a children's hospital, Phoenix Children's Hospital to be exact, third largest children's hospital in the country. Then I went up to California. I met my wife, where we have 3 children now. With my daughter skipping 3rd grade going to 4th, and my son being able to skip 1st grade. We're petitioning for him to skip 1st grade now. And I've got a little boy, a 2-month-old, that I can be home to educate. So again, to the college student, again, you got to know why you want it in that part of life. All right. Now you get out, you got this degree. Say you follow what I'm saying right now with the gems I'm dropping. Say you did know what you wanted. You got into that degree that now qualifies you for a higher paying job, higher salary. You can be more mobile. You can move wherever you want. You're not limited to location. Look at the pandemic. Look how many people moved out of states. How many people moved to different areas. How remote work worked. That capability. Think about if you knew that 10 years before it happened. That's what I'm talking about, knowing why you want. Having that mobility with your career. Being able to work in different locations. Well, you can't do that if you're working at a grocery store. You can't work at the same grocery store and bag up groceries or manage a grocery store from a different location unless you're a regional or higher up position. But I could do that as the same regular nurse that takes your blood pressure when you go into the ED. I can do that anywhere. Or work at a doctor's office. I can do that anywhere. There's even positions where you can work as a nurse remotely. I could be here and work remotely, and meaning I could live here in Pennsylvania and I can do a job that I'm hired for in California. That's the capabilities that you need with a career in life. You don't need one that sounds good or feels good or sounds great when you're talking to people who have no application for themselves improving in life. Again, goes back to that same point. Now, I'm giving you life gems right now. Please hold on. Time out. Get my likes up. If you ain't subscribing now, this ain't just a land channel. I'm dropping on land ownership and ownership in life. I'm not just talking about just land. You're not going to have people selling you lands trying to tell you how to get better in life. I'm giving you clues and cookie crumbs on how to get to where I got. Now, I'm not a millionaire by any chance, but I'm financially weathering storms. I have people's lives that I'm improving through my efforts. And I was able to do this starting off where I'm telling you to start at now. I'm giving you the path to go up this mountain. If you watched that last video I talked about climbing this mountain through the pathways, I'm showing you the path that I've taken. I'm showing you the tools you need to get up to the mountaintop. Everybody wants to try their own way to get up to the mountain, but those who want to be successful learn from those who have success. Let me say that again. Those who want to be successful learn from people who have success, not from people who have failures. You can learn from people who have failures by avoiding their example. But you want to take notes from people who are successful. I do. You want to learn how to be a wolf, you got to learn from wolves. You don't go to a tiger to learn how to be a wolf. You want to learn how to howl, you learn with wolves that learn how to howl. And if you're around wolves long enough, you'll eventually learn how to howl. But you don't go to a tiger for that. Correct? And I'm saying this to you, if you're still following with me right now, again, you got to know why it is that you want what you want. Now you move, you get out of college, now you're in life, now you're starting a job, you want to get a place, you got to figure out this adulthood because you are now a baby as being an adult. It's a great feeling to think that you ain't got to have anybody telling you what to do. You can do that. You don't have mom and dad anymore. But now you got to start your pathway to being financially stable to potentially have a family. Or even to be able to get a home if you're looking for that. Or to be economically stable in case when the pandemic didn't hit. Or it's going to hit, or another one comes, or economic instability. Shoot, since 2008, it's been only 14 years. We've had 2 recessions, or this recession and another one possibly coming on. Housing market going down. You got to understand what an interest rate basis point is. An adult, they ain't teaching you that in school, unless you're taking economics or you're taking a class for that. You want to go buy a house? Great. Okay, good. Did you read up on anything of what an escrow is, closing costs? Do you understand what that means? Do you understand buying down interest rate points? There's a whole education that you're not getting taught in school that you got to learn when you're an adult that you're not being taught on. And it ain't like they're giving you got to go to class and they give you an hour to learn this. You got to learn this while you're now being busy in life because you got a career that you're starting on, right? There's no one's going to give you this information. You got to go out and seek it. So I'm going to say that right now, folks. You got to know why it is that you want the things that you want in life. You got to prepare yourself for that. Like, share, subscribe, man. There's going to be more to come in here. I'm going to leave y'all with that now. Think about that. Know why you want the things that you want. Phil Davis, Ancestry Lands. I'm signing off, folks. Take it easy.
Are you confused with today's real estate market? With high interest rates and overpriced housing, it can be hard to find something to own at the right price. Available on Amazon, Getting Dollars from Dirt by author Philip H. Davis is a game-changing book that invites you to embark on a thrilling exploration of this often overlooked asset class. This book is your roadmap to unlocking the secrets of vacant land investment. Inside these pages, you will uncover the transformative power of vacant land as a wealth-building tool. Discover how to spot promising properties, assess their true value, and capitalize on market trends. From understanding zoning and permits to leveraging financing strategies, you'll gain the knowledge and confidence to make savvy investment decisions. With each page you turn, you'll gain a deeper understanding of the profound impact your investments can have on the world around you. Getting Dollars from Dirt is not just a guidebook, it's a call to action. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a curious novice, this book will empower you to tap into the immense potential of vacant land and embark on a journey toward financial freedom and a brighter future.